Do I think psychedelics could possibly help? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you say that you have tried them or you haven't?
I haven't decided
Yes or no?
Did you say haven't?
I haven't.
You haven't? Okay, all right. So, I do have a chapter in the book on psychedelics, chapter 31, where I describe my own experience with it. And I've worked with them now for 13 years now, both in a healing capacity, but also for myself. They have great potential. I'm not a psychedelic evangelist. You know, I don't think any one thing is going to save the world. In fact, as a writer, you're often asked to write blurbs, endorsements for other people's books, and there's a book that I absolutely refuse to endorse just because I saw the title. And I said, even if this is the best book in the history of the universe, I will not endorse it because of the title. And the title was How Psychedelics Will Save the World. Okay? I don't think psychedelics will save the world. And the resurgent interest in psychedelics is due both to their own genuine potential, but also to the poverty of our current therapeutic methods. Having said that, psychedelics in the right context, under the right guidance, with the right intention, in the right atmosphere, can be powerfully supportive of healing. I've seen people overcome addictions, do much better with their autoimmune diseases, experience personal transformations that made their whole attitude towards life much more healthy and grounded. I've seen all that. I've also seen people being exploited through psychedelics and they're being misused. So it's one of those modalities that it all depends on who's using it, in what context, and for what purpose. But yes, as a modality of healing, it's actually beyond insane that these things should be illegal and that they're not being researched and supported more, given their demonstrated potential, their research demonstrated potential, and given the sparsity of other methods. So that I think it's a wonderful modality that we need to take much more seriously. It's for yourself. Personally, I can't advise you whether yes or no, because I'd have to know more about you, but it's probably worth exploring.
Another question. Okay, there's a person there. It's the light shining in my eyes, so I can't tell if it's a man or woman, but over here.
Hello. I found it interesting you said that you still had tension come up from not wanting to go for your dinner last night. And I wondered whether trauma can ever fully be healed, or whether there's always going to be traces, always work, always stuff to do. Is there a point where you just never feel those tensions again?
Okay, so it's a combination of the sound system and my poor hearing, but can you repeat the question for me?
Yes. Is the work ever done? Do you ever get to the point
Is the work ever done?
you're finished, or do you have to keep going?
Have you ever heard the epigraph, so not my epitaph that I wrote? What's going to say on my gravestone? Have I ever told you that? No? It's going to say, it was a lot more work than I had anticipated. You know what? What you're really asking is, you can ask it for 2 points of view. One is, oh my God, is it ever over? They have to keep working. Or what are the possibilities inherent in continued growth? I mean, there is this saying, people growing old, by which we usually mean that they're getting aged and decrepit. But it's actually possible to grow old, you know, because the life continues to unfold its wisdom, and you're more in a position to understand it. You've clarified yourself, you've cleared yourself out of past programming so that you see more. And that's an ongoing process, and I think that's particularly exciting. So yeah, it's ongoing and it's never over. Some people will have some huge spiritual, I mean, I think, David, you've dwelt in these realms maybe more than I have, but some people will have huge spiritual transformations and experiences that overnight, all of a sudden they're in a different realm. But those people are very few and far in between. For most of us, it's an ongoing process of clarification of ourselves and of freeing ourselves from our unconscious baggage. Nothing wrong with that. I mean, I've often said this, pardon me if I'm repeating, I only have so many jokes, and this is one of them, but I've often said that I'm 78 years old now, and I wouldn't want to be as young and stupid as I was when I was 77.
Another question somewhere. In the middle here? Anywhere? Yeah. Just keep your hands up and... Thank you.
You were talking about politicians. I was wondering your viewpoint on people who seek influence and seek fame, seek a big voice, and whether that is coming from trauma, and if it is, if that is actually helping the need for validation, the need for love that maybe hasn't been given.
Would you mind?
No. It's lucky there's two of us up here. Whether it's not just politicians, but people who seek influence and seek power and a bigger voice, is that a good thing, or is that a lack in them, and should we trust that? I hope I got the question right.
I'm sorry, but I still didn't get it. Say it again, a bit louder.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's not just politicians.
It's sort of reverberant for me.
Yeah, so I'm leaning too close.
Yeah, right, yeah.
I think the question was looking at, it's not just politicians, but people who want to influence and seek more power and have a bigger voice.
Yeah.
Is that a lack in them? Is this something we should trust?
Yeah. Well, if I understand the question, here's the thing. If children have certain needs, and one of them is to be feel important just for existing, just because they are. You're important not because you're pretty or smart or successful or compliant or because you please me. You're just important to me, and I welcome you in my life just as you are, because it's important to me that you exist. That's the need of the child. If we don't get that need met, then we're going to seek that sense of importance through all kinds of activities through our life. In my case, through the practice of medicine, and which drives a kind of addiction when it comes to work. But that lack of missing sense of my worth is going to show up in all realms of functioning, not just in politics. It's going to show up in your personal life, it's going to show up in how you relate to your work, and so on. So if the question implies that it has to go way beyond politics, it certainly does. Did that kind of answer the question?
I hope so. I think so.
Yeah.
There's a question down here at the front. Someone in a green jersey. Sorry. And
two more, yeah.
Hi. So here's the thing. Basically, I developed when I got diagnosed ADHD about 40 years too late. Even though it wasn't, because it was amazing, I realised it was a bit of a superpower, and I developed a program teaching drama to people with mental health and addiction problems, and it seems like it's proving to really heal and help the trauma that I have, they have. It's a wholeness that I'm getting from it, and I feel like, first of all, like, is improvisation and acting and drama and role playing, you talked about your wife. Do you agree that it's proven to help and heal trauma and addiction and confidence? Because, connection, the opposite to addiction. And I wonder if bringing up that trauma sometimes is too painful.
Can you summarize that?
yes, it's not your fault, it's the acoustics. Was diagnosed with ADHD, felt it was wrong, has gone on to teach people drama and does that helping other people.
That he got misdiagnosed?
Yeah, does helping other people, is that a better cure for it? Is that something that's...
Well, there's this whole thing about mental health diagnoses, including ADHD. These are constructs. They're not realities. They might reflect some aspect of reality, but then they're not the whole reality of any one person. So the people who tend to be diagnosed with it are, like myself, I can certainly say that all my life I've had a tendency to tune out. I have difficulty keeping my mind on things unless I'm highly motivated. I've had issues in my younger years, certainly, with impulse control, and also sitting still has not been that easy for me, So that describes my functioning, but it doesn't explain anything of why I was, but it's not an explanation. So diagnoses are never explanations, they're descriptions. So, it's kind of a circular thing. Gabor has ADD. How do we know? Because he tunes out a lot. Why does he tune out a lot? Because he's got ADD. How do we know he's got ADD? Because he tunes out a lot.
Another question.
Now something like
Sorry.
Now something like ADD, the tuning out, it might characterize somebody's behavior, but it doesn't explain it. The explanation is that tuning out itself is a protective mechanism against stress. So if there's a lot of stress around a particularly sensitive child, particularly if kids are sensitive, which ADHD kids tend to be very sensitive, if there's a lot of stress around them, the way they, like David said, the child can't escape or fight back, so they kind of freeze or they dissociate. And that gets programmed into the brain. So now they got this condition, but it all began as a coping mechanism. And what's usually there is the sensitivity, which makes you very creative and very spontaneous, sometimes too much so maybe, but but also in a good way. And it means that you can actually offer a lot to other people. And people with that condition also tend to be very empathetic towards others because of their sensitivity. So that's what's probably showing up in your case. Whether you need the diagnosis or not, I don't care. It's a question, is your life working for you? Yeah, then who cares about a diagnosis? If it isn't working, then you might want to see, well, what kind of help can I get to help, to support these difficulties of mine. But it sounds like for you, from what I understand your question, it's working and you're making it work to help others, so I say, terrific. Okay?
There's a...
Hi, Gabby.
Hold it closer to you.
Okay. How do we become more authentic and reconnect to ourselves? So what's the step one that you would say how we can reconnect to the truest version of us?
So.
Oh, again, right, yes. What's the first step that someone takes to reconnect to their authentic self?
What's the first thing you do? You notice when you're not being authentic. Now, do you ever have a sense after you talk to somebody or after an event, I wasn't quite myself? I didn't say that I was asked a question, and I didn't give a really honest answer for fear of offending. Or I tried to ingratiate myself with somebody, and I felt bad about it afterwards. I didn't feel like doing something, but I did it. Just notice it. So the way to get authentic is to notice the inauthenticity. Because who's doing the noticing? Which part of you recognizes, oh, I wasn't being authentic here? Guess what? That's the authentic self. So you keep exercising the authentic self by noticing the inauthenticity and not being critical about yourself about it. Not putting, oh, I was not being authentic again. What an idiot. No, you engage in what I call compassionate inquiry. You ask, well, okay, what was my belief that kept me from being authentic? Where did I learn that belief? How's that serving me? We do talk about this process in the book quite a bit, but essentially it's strengthening, it's strengthening the part of you that notices the inauthenticity. That's the authentic part. If it wasn't there, you would never realize that you're being inauthentic. Okay? All right.
Is it possible, just to pick up on that sometimes your body will notice before you do, that you get a feeling somewhere or...
Oh, yeah. Thank you for saying that. The body is going to send you all kinds of messages. I mean, if you're getting recurrent messages from your body, headaches, back spasms, digestive issues, recurrent ones, stomach aches. I mean, you should look at your diet, obviously, but in general, anxiety, dry mouth, sleeplessness. your body's sending you a message. And so that you may not know what the message is, but if you ask, you will find out. So these symptoms that people go to their doctors with, get rid of this for me, well, that's fine. You don't want to suffer symptoms. But at least at the same time as you're dealing with it on the symptomatic level, ask yourself, what is my body trying to tell me? Okay?
Ladies and gentlemen, there are several people in the audience who will be traumatized if we don't get to their question, but we can't. We have overrun as it is. I have a couple of things, housekeeping to tell you, but first, can I ask you to join me in thanking Gabor Maté?
Thank you. How do I get out of here?